Hi guys, and welcome to Magic. In this video I'm going to show you how you can retrieve data from your SQL database in your Angular app, and more importantly I'm going to show it to you in 5 minutes. First, download Magic by going to this website. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video. Then click download Magic, then unzip it, and then open a terminal window or command window if you're on Windows. If you're on Windows, you hold down the Windows key, or you click the Windows key and then you type CMD, or hold down the Windows key and click R and type CMD for commands. I'm on a Mac, so obviously I'm going to have to use terminal. Change directory, CD, change directory to wherever you downloaded Magic. Change into your Magic folder, ls here, for me, since I'm on a Linux-based operating system, dir if you're on Windows. Here you see Docker Compose, which is important. Now at this point you must make sure you have Docker up running. I have Docker up running, you can see it here actually. And then all I gotta do is to type docker-compose space up, and that's it. Now after a couple of seconds I will have Magic running its front end on port 5555 on localhost. Then you can open up another browser window, localhost colon 5555, and then you'll be brought on to Magic. This is how it's going to look like when you come here. Sorry, I was already logged in. Log in, choose this backend, type the password root. That is the default password. Don't bother to save it because you're going to change it anyway. Choose my SQL database. Choose, for instance, admin. Repeat it twice. It doesn't really matter because it's your local development machine, so it doesn't really need to be that secure. Keep this exactly as is. And then when this process is done, you need to crodify your Magic backend. Just click next, don't change anything. Type your name in subject here, type your email address in email here, and just click next, and this will create a cryptography key pair for your Magic server. Then you're really done. You can run the assumptions, but it doesn't really matter. Now you want to go to the SQL pane. Then you want to click the load button. Then you want to choose Babelfish. Then when the script loads, click execute. Doesn't matter, I already have it apparently. Drop database Babelfish. Okay. This is how it's going to look. SQL succeeded, but returned no results. Now click the menu here and go to your diagnostics menu item. Click the cache and click clear all. This is important, otherwise you're not going to get the database up here in the generator. When you go to the generator, choose backend CRUD, choose MySQL database type, choose generic connection string, and choose the Babelfish database. Click crodify all tables. You now have a backend. Then click the front end, select Angular service, important, otherwise you're going to get tons of GUI. Name your app, my first Angular app. Click Babelfish, click generate, and you're done. You now have an Angular boilerplate template, which you can actually use to create your first Angular app that actually connects to an SQL server in the backend. Open another terminal window. Open your My First Angular app folder. Make sure you're in the correct folder. Type code space dot slash. This will open up Visual Studio Code for you in this folder, assuming you have the command line path for code installed in your system. And here you can see a microscopic app that actually connects to your database, and it's actually kind of cool. Let me just first start npm link here. Open another terminal window. You do that in new terminal here. type npm link, and this is going to take some time. So while this thing does its thing, let's have a look at this thing. Because the HTTP service actually automatically wraps your database on the server and provides you with an HTTP REST web API you can use. More specifically, you see languages here. Well, that was a database table, right? Now it has these methods: delete, read, count, create, and update, etc. Then you remember translations. Well, this is also a table in my database. So this HTTP service layer was actually created automatically for me, right? So now we can expand the components folder. We can open up app component.html. Then beneath this part, you can type button and then tab. It's going to create the HTML markup required to render a button. Type in load stuff from server here, for instance, inside of the button. Then after the button, type space, then 2 parentheses, click, equal, load stuff, 2 parentheses like this. This is a method invocation from your Angular HTML code. Then open up app.component.ts. Then at the bottom of this file, do like this, type public, load stuff, and 2 of these braces like this. Then you type this dot HTTP service dot languages dot read, 2 parentheses. Inside of these 2 parentheses, we're going to have to provide a filter condition. We're just going to provide an empty one. We're going to return back to this in a later video. However, we're going to provide an empty filter. Then type dot subscribe, 2 parentheses, semicolon at the end, and then res for results, equal, and then more than, and then 2 of these guys again, and then do console.log, and then just type inside of the parentheses in the invocation to console.log, type res, which basically is the result as returned from the server. So now npm link is done doing its thing. We can start serving our app. Go down to your console again, type ng space serve. This too is going to take some time. But basically what we're doing here, we created a button in the HTML markup parts of our component. This button, once clicked, will invoke this method in our app.component.ts file. This method, again, basically consumes our automatically generated HTTP service invoking our backend, retrieving every single language that exists in our database. And when it returns, it will log the languages to the console. So once ng service done, you can switch back to your browser again. You can open another browser window, go to localhost colon 4200. And at this point, you want to click F12 to show the developer's console here, which is kind of important. This error doesn't really matter, it just doesn't find a fav icon file. Now, first, it's going to look like this because you're not logged in. First, click Authenticate. Now you've authenticated, and actually you can see it on the network here. If you click the network tab, you can see Authenticate. Okay, it sends in username root and password admin. If you chose a different password than admin when you set up Magic locally, then you need to modify this in your app.component.ts file. You need to modify the password here, right? Here it passes in admin as the password to the authenticate method invocation. However, I chose admin, so this is going to be perfectly okay for me. Then click load stuff from server. Ta-da! Congratulations, you've just created an Angular app actually retrieving data from an SQL-based database through a secure backend. And in fact, if you log out and you try to load stuff from server, you will see it's failing. Access denied. If I log in and I try to retrieve stuff from server, it actually succeeds, and so on. And that is because when I CRUDified my my Babelfish backend, then the default settings for this table becomes that it requires root or admin as authorization, root, admin, implying that I need to be authenticated with the user, and that user needs to belong to either the role of root or the role of admin. And all of this was created automatically for me. So how did I teach you Angular? Well, actually, I didn't, but I removed 85% of the problem related towards learning Angular. Why? Because Angular by itself is a front-end framework and it's completely useless. Don't get me wrong, it's kick-ass cool, but in isolation, it's completely useless. If you want to learn Angular, you need some sort of HTTP REST web API backend. Now that problem is now gone. So what you need to do now in order to teach yourself Angular is basically to go to DuckDuckGo and type in Angular, teach yourself, hello world. And I wish you good luck. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.